Although many different ethnic and religious groups had resided together for 40 years under Yugoslavia's repressive government, this changed when the country began to collapse during its fall in the early 1990s. The provinces of Slovenia and Croatia declared independence, and war quickly followed between Serbia and these breakaway republics. Ethnic tensions were brought to the forefront, and people who had lived peacefully for years as neighbors turned against each other and took up arms. When Bosnia attempted to secede, Serbia, under Slobodan Milosevic's leadership, invaded with the claim that they were there to free fellow Serbian Orthodox Christians living in Bosnia. Starting in April of 1992, Serbia set out to ethnically cleanse the Bosnian territory by systematically removing all Bosnian Muslims. Serbia, together with ethnic Bosnian Serbs, attacked Bosniaks with former Yugoslavian military equipment and surrounded Sarajevo. Many Bosniaks were driven into concentration camps where women and girls were systematically and other civilians were starved and... Now, you may be wondering, Truth, this is a YouTube channel about basketball. Why are you giving me a history lesson on the collapse of Yugoslavia? Well, to answer that question, let me give you 3 different situations. 1. A boy born in North Carolina in the early 90s that engaged in a life of crime growing up in response to his poor life situation. 2. A boy that grew up with 4 other siblings whose next meal depended on how much stuff he could sell on the streets of Greece. And 3. A 7-year-old Bosniak that went to bed every night not knowing if he was going to survive for the next day. Now, these 3 situations all found the same outlet to conquer their struggles: basketball. The first scenario is former All-Star point guard John Wall. The second scenario is 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that 7-year-old Bosniak is the one we're talking about in this video. Today we'll be talking about Mirza Teletovic and his journey to the NBA.
I was 7 years old when the war started. First you start seeing that there's no food. Then grenades come down. And the whole city's shaking. And you hear people screaming. Every day your parents come in and say, our neighbor died. Our cousin died. It's always somebody dying. One day my mother came, I asked her, like, is anybody alive, you know? It's a very, very, very rough, how do you say, memory.
Growing up Muslim in post 9/11 America wasn't the easiest thing, but when I compare my situation to other Muslims around the world, it's hard to even fathom being in those situations. Whether it be in Palestine for the past 80 years, or Uyghur Muslims being held in concentration camps by China, or in an 18-month siege of the Bosniaks in the 90s. Growing up, when I wanted to play basketball, I'd walk over about a mile to my local indoor rec center. When Mirza Teletovic was growing up, he'd go over about 300 meters to his community basketball hoop and play with his friends without wearing shoes from 6 in the morning to as late as 11 at night. And unprompted, in the middle of games, sirens would begin to sound. The grenades started falling down, and he'd have to run back to his house and hide in order to survive. If I have to die, I die. For basketball, I will do anything. To someone like me, this would honestly sound insane, even back when I would play basketball every single day as a kid. But putting yourself in Mirza's shoes, where basketball was your only outlet of escape, it makes perfect sense. And that's the common denominator for people like Mirza, or John Wall, or Giannis, or name at least 50 other successful NBA players here. The Bosnian War would end in 1995 with as many as 200,000 people reported deceased. But thankfully, Mirza was able to come out the other end alive and able to pursue his dream of being a professional basketball player. And he would do just that. By the time he was only 16 years old, he was already averaging over 26 points per game on his first professional basketball team. After years around the EuroLeague, including stops in the Spanish ACB League, he finally made his debut in the NBA by signing a 3-year, $9 million contract with the Brooklyn Nets in 2012. And his 4th year with the Phoenix Suns saw him have his best season, with 12.2 points per game with 39% shooting from 3 on 5.8 attempts a game in just 21 minutes, which earned him a $31.5 million contract with the Bucks. Then he would retire from playing basketball at the age of 33 after suffering a pulmonary embolism. Now, I understand that he wasn't that notable of an NBA player when he was in the league. He wasn't some sort of star level player or contributing to winning an NBA championship, but honestly, that's okay. At the end of the day, he's a man that went from surviving a war and an ethnic cleansing of his people to go and do his favorite thing in the world, play basketball. And now today he's returned back home to Bosnia to become the president of the Bosnian Basketball Federation. So even today he's still around the game that gave him an escape as a child, and he was able to find happiness in it, which I have to say is enough to call this a happy ending. Not to mention the fact that he made over $46 million throughout his time in the NBA, which, you know, it's a pretty good cherry on top of, I have to say. Now, before I end off this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to a recent subscriber to the channel, Latrell Moore. He was actually the one that suggested I make a video on Mirza Teletovic on the first place, and honestly, I've got to thank him because it was pretty eye-opening to research this topic, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, if you guys have any topics that you want to see me make a video on, let me know down below in the comment section, and there's a pretty good chance that I will if I find it interesting. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys today. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click the bell to enable notifications for all new videos. As a smaller content creator, it helps me out a lot. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.